this video, we're going to learn how to grind this cutter I'm showing you right now. And what this is something I actually need for work. I have to cut a slot tomorrow with a little 45-degree chamfer at the bottom of it, so, or fillet, I should say. So what I've got here is a piece of 1/4-inch cutter blank that I have circle ground down and relieved to a 200 thousandths diameter cutter. Okay, the purpose of this is intro here is to show you there's going to be a few formulas you need to grind this cutter, and here's how I got to them. So I just want to make sure you saw the cutter first. It's a 45-degree angle with a 50 thousandths, so it's 45 by 50. Okay, and I've already ground the diameter of the cutter to 200 thousandths. So you're going to need to know why that happened and how I got there. There's two settings required to grind this cutter. You're going to have to calculate an A dimension, and if you look in the book that you got with this course, the manual, they call it the offset value of A. The A dimension is the amount to offset the cross-slide vernier on the video on the carriage. So it's very important you do this first, okay? A equals 1/2 of the tip diameter of what you want. So you have to calculate your tip diameter. Our tip diameter for this cutter is going to be 0.100. And you're going to offset the cross-slide vernier to 1/2 of that distance before starting, which is 50 thousandths. So I want you to know, though, how I got that dimension. For this cutter, here is how I calculated the vernier offset dimension. This cutter has been circle ground and relieved to a 200 thousandths diameter. If I grind a 50 thousandths by 45 degree on this cutter, on the tip, the actual tip becomes 0.100. 200 thousandths diameter to start with, minus 50, minus 50. Those are the two 45s, one on each side. Gives you a 100 thousandths tip. And I even drew this for you. Here's our cutter, 200 thousandths in diameter. It's got a 45-degree angle on it by 50 thousandths. Well, the 50 would be here, and of course when you go around, the 50 is going to be here. So your theoretical tip, if you didn't relieve the cutter, you just circle ground that 45, your theoretical tip is 100 thousandths. Now it's important that you see how I did that, because we're going to do a 5-degree cutter later, and you'll see how you may need a little trigonometry to figure that out. But a 45 is very easy, because a 50 thousandths 45 is going to be 50 both ways. Okay, so I knew that. So again, 200 thousandths diameter, 50, 50 brings that down to 100 tip. A equals 1/2 of the tip diameter you want. Our tip diameter for this cutter is 0.100. A equals 50, okay, because it's half of that. So offset the cross-slide vernier to that distance before you even start on this cutter. The second setting you're going to have to set happens after we begin to grind the cutter. It's part of the process, and as you watch the video, you'll see me add this second step. So you do not preset anything, but using the what we call the adjustment screw F on the left side of the machine with the vernier marks on it. What we're going to do is we're going to move the whole carriage over at a point when we're grinding the cutter, and you're going to need this dimension, and it's the X dimension. And again, it's in the book, but X is pretty simple. It's the diameter of your cutter divided by 2 minus the A dimension that you already set. So 200 thousandths is the diameter of our cutter, and divided by 2 minus A. So 200 divided by 2 is 100. Minus A, which was 50, equals like 50 thousandths. It's kind of interesting that they both came out the same, but it did work. You have to understand, when I grind these cutters, I don't have a measuring tool here in the lab here to say, wow, I wonder if it came out right. It looks like 50 thousandths, and I scaled it, and I'm pretty good with a scale, and I held up the scale and looked at it. Well, I took it into work this morning and put it on the comparator, and that's why I know these formulas work. There's that tiny little cutter blown up 100 times on the comparator, and you can see, you can barely see the line there. I had to set a line at the beginning of the 45 and move the comparator handles until at the top of the cutter hit. Look at my reading over here. 50 thousandths and 2/10. I was 2/10 off. Quite frankly, I think the comparator's off. So that proves right there that the formulas I'm giving you are very, very accurate. And it takes a little time. I hope you guys are being patient with yourselves. There's a lot of knobs and levers to lock on this machine. But I assure you, once you get the hang of it, the formulas I'm giving are extremely accurate. And you can see that on this cutter right there. 50 thousandths by 45 is what we want, and we pretty much got it. Okay, in this lesson, we're going to grind a cutter that I actually need to use at work tomorrow. And I was looking over some blueprints for what I'm going to work on tomorrow, and I see I need a cutter 200 thousandths in diameter with a 45 thousandths angle on it by 50 thousandths. So it's a 45 by 50, okay? 45 degrees by 50 thousandths. So there's going to be a formula up on the screen, and we've already I've been practicing, so I've already ground this cutter down to 200 thousandths diameter, and I've shown you how to do that before. You just spin the cutter and keep checking the width until you get 200 thousandths. Okay, so that's done. So now we're going to line up our red dot, put our indexing pin in the left hole, and then we're going to, we're going to put it in the center dot with the red dot in the window. Same drill, line up the flute with the little gauge here. Alright, so now we're set at center. Pull the pin out, put it in the left position so we can grind the cutter, okay? Alright, so here, a little bit going on with this lesson here. What I want to show you first of all, and the formula on the screen says, I have to set my cross slide vernier at 50 thousandths. So that is set. And we're going to lock it with this lever on the back. Locked. Next thing we're going to do is pick up the outside of our cutter. Okay? So the first thing was to set the offset. The second thing was to pick up the outside. The next thing we're going to do is lock this lever over here. And if you saw the formula there, we also have to move, I believe, the knob F here. I locked this so I could easily spin this instead of 0 without moving anything. I'm going to unlock it and move it as per the formula over 50 thousandths. So we have set the vernier at 50 thousandths, and now we've just indexed the whole cross slide tube over 50 thousandths. The third thing we're going to do is pick up the end of the wheel, the end of the cutter, I'm sorry. And lock that. The final thing we're going to do on the setup end is this wheel here. We have to push it all the way up. This scale, you should hear it click. And the way you check that it's in the right position is to turn this until it stops, and there's a 0 mark here, and you should be lined up. Okay? It should say 0. If this thing is stuck or not all the way up to the top where it belongs, it won't say 0. So if that's saying 0, and I'm going to keep this pushed up against there so this scale can't move, I'm going to set this at 45 degrees now. And then lock this lever underneath very carefully because I just moved it. And that's this lever here. So now we can turn the cutter, it will stop at 90 and then stop at 45. Now if I just take this into the wheel right now, it's going to take a lot of stock off. So I've got a 0 set, I'm going to back it off. Then slowly start bringing it back in until I get back to that 0. And I've got to make sure I keep this position so it's not rotating on me. Keep it pushed towards me. And if you're really worried about it, you can lock this lever over here. And that'll keep it in one spot for you. I'm going to slowly dial this in until I get to my 0. And then I'm just going to swing it. It'll put the relief on it. And then I'm going to come around unlock this again so I can swing it back to the wheel. I'm going to bring it right up to the wheel and spin it. And that relieves the cutter towards it to the center. And there you have it. There is a 45-degree cutter using the formula that's on the screen again. And it's got a 200 thousandths diameter cutter with a 45-degree by 50 thousandths 45 angle on it. And I'll show you that drawing. And I'll take a picture of this. And that's it. I'll check it in the comparator in the morning to make sure I'm right though.